Okay, how to create a picture box in the part entry record. So I've created a simple customization with an empty group box called visual representation or visual rep, where I want my picture box to show up. So I'm going to go into customization mode and I'm going to draw an epi picture box in this area, as well as a simple button that will allow me to select the picture I want to show up. Okay, so I'm gonna select epi picture box and draw it into my visual rep area. I'm just going to draw a little square, and then I'm going to do a button, and I'm just going to throw it in here also, and I'm going to call it button browse, and I'm just going to say browse. Now this is a very quick example. It's not going to be polished, but it'll give you a general idea of how to accomplish this. Okay, my picture box, we're going to call it pick. All right, now we're going to create a button event handler on our new button, a click event handler, I'm sorry, on a new button that will allow us to select the picture that we want to store in our part entry record. I've also gone ahead and added a field to my part table called part image underscore C, I believe. Yeah, part image underscore C, which is where I'm going to store the location of the picture that I want to display. So very simply here, I'm going to say, I'm going to get a hold of my current epi data view to make sure that there is a record loaded onto the screen before I do anything with the picture. This will prevent some errors and things like that. So I'm getting a hold of my current epi data view, and I'm going to check if the epi data view has a row. Then I'm going to assume there's something for me to play with. Now you probably want to do some more error checking in here, make sure that you actually have a part number and things like that, but for the time being, this will do. So if that's the case, I'm going to use an open file dialog to help me select the photo. Now, the open file dialog has a million options. You can filter the types of files you want to get. You can let it know to pick exactly from a specific folder. But I'm not going to set any of those options right now. These are options you can set later on. So this is a very rudimentary example. So I'm checking to make sure that you selected a file, and if that's the case, I'm going to simply assign the selected file to my epi data view part image field. I always like to use my begin edit and end edits and my notify. That makes sure that all the logic built into Epicor gets executed as if you were assigning this field by clicking around instead of in the code. So this is part image underscore C is going to be equal to our open file dialog file name. Okay, and then I'm going to notify the data view. Okay, so this is basically simply storing my image in the part record. That doesn't display it, doesn't do anything else for me, it just stores it. Now, in order to display the image, what we need to do is every time a record is loaded into the screen, we need to look at that field, and if it has a value, we're going to actually load the image up. And the best way to look at the record every time a record is loaded, or pretty much any time a record is touched, is for us to use the row rule wizard. The row rule wizard you can use to do conditional checks on fields and then perform an action. Now that action generally is a highlight or something like that, but we also have a custom code action which we can use, which we're going to take advantage of at this time. So I'm going to say my rule is called display image, and my rule view is going to be part. And I'm going to say if my field called part image underscore C has a value, so it's not equal to blank. Now, there's a bug in here where you can't just say blank. So what I usually do is I put double quotes in here, and then I'm going to have to go in the code and fix that. All right, then I'm going to do a custom action if that's true. So now I'm going to go to the code and fix the issue, because when you do a double quote, what it actually does is it puts the double quotes as part of the condition check, which is not what we want. So we want just to check if it's not equal to blank or empty. It also messes up the name of our function here, but again, as long as you remove the double quotes here, you should be okay. All right, so now when that action is true, when there is a value in that field, I want to go ahead and set my picture box called pic to that image. So I'm going to have to get a hold of my data view again. All right, and I already know I have a value because the action was triggered. So all I have to do here is set my pic image equals to image.from file, and then pass it the field that contains the file location of the image. Now it's telling me that the image doesn't exist in the current context. That's this image right here, because it comes from a different namespace. It comes from the drawing space. So I would just say using system.drawing. And now when I check, all my errors should go away. One thing to keep in mind, like I said before, this is a very rudimentary example. This will work, but it will not clear the image box when you clear the record, which you can do on your own, of course. But it should work for the most part. So I'm going to go ahead and save this, and I'm going to close my customization and relaunch it. All right, and now I'm just going to create a part. All right, so I'm going to go here and I want to add a picture, so I'm going to click browse, and I'm going to pick the picture of my screw, which was automatically added to my picture box, and I'm going to hit save. Okay, and then I'm going to add another part. I'm going to call it screw to see how that image stayed there, because we didn't clear it when the record changed. But again, rudimentary. However, when we load the new image, you'll see that it does work. Save. So now I have two parts loaded in here. Both of them have different images. So when I switch from one to the other, you can see that my picture changes. Or if I just, look up the record, so say I would clear everything and I look up one of my records, my picture will change if it's supposed to change, of course. It will change. So there you go. Hopefully this was helpful.